Welcome to At Home with Kelly and Tiffany, where we share powerful tools, exciting education, and relatable views about holistic health, physiological birth, and thriving in the female body. We're home birth midwives in sunny San Diego, passionate about the alternatives that give women control and confidence in health, in birth, and in life. We've poured a lot of love into creating very in-depth and high-value offerings, a monthly membership, a physiological birth course, and holistic guides for the women who really want to dive all the way in. But this podcast, we want to bring zero-cost information about health and natural birth and make these important topics accessible, always. Your support of the show is also zero cost and means everything to us. When you leave a review, share an episode, and join our newsletter, it really helps us keep this space open, ad-free, and full of honest, valuable conversations. Now, let's dive into today's show. Welcome back to the At Home with Kelly and Tiffany podcast. I am midwife Kelly.
And I'm midwife Tiffany. And I'm important here too, despite Kelly always insisting on introducing herself first.
I am obviously prideful, and that's where we are right now. But today, I'm actually really excited to chat about this topic, about adrenal fatigue in general, because this is actually personal to Tiffany and I, having walked through this ourselves because of seasons of burnout and things like that, given work, life, school, all the different things that we've been through in the seasons that we have been friends. And to be able to come out the other side of it and be like, yes, there is hope. Yes, there is healing. Here's how we can start to support ourselves is actually really enjoyable for us to be able to talk about, because we know how terrible it feels to be in that space.
Yeah, in fact, we're so well acquainted with chronic stress and just also treating women with chronic stress conditions. They can feel really complex, but it is such a foundational piece of holistic women's health that we have created tons of resources and content around this topic inside of our monthly membership. So those of you who are thinking through some of these pieces and wanting a little bit more hand-holding as we discuss this, that is probably the best place for you to jump in for relatively cheap entry. I think our membership price is currently $32, $34 a month. Gosh, I should probably know that as I'm promoting it. Low 30s a month, and an excellent place for you to go get a ton more resources and education and information. But what we get to talk about today is our specific protocol for treating HPA axis dysfunction, quote unquote, adrenal fatigue issues. But before we jump in, Kelly, I have the icebreaker set today for get me through your morning routine. I know the listeners want to hear what things we do in our real life. And so I have some routine-ish icebreakers planned for some future episodes. So give us the morning routine breakdown in your life.
So it looks a little different depending on the day, just because my schedule's slightly different and there's more time and ease on certain days than not. But the non-negotiable pieces, right, are I have recently, maybe not recently, it's been a while, I have plugged my phone in far from my bed so that it is not a temptation to use that as my timer or, alarm to wake up. And then immediately if I'm turning it off, well, then I'm like, well, let me just check these other messages or, notifications. So I leave that elsewhere. We actually have just a little analog clock that has a, what am I thinking of? An alarm set to it. And so that's, if I need an alarm, can wake up to that. There are days where I don't have to set one, and that is glorious. But generally speaking, I wake up around the same time every morning, and I will open up the blinds to get natural light in. Of course, there's sometimes things I need to tend to if kids are already awake and very needy, but we're at a pretty easy space in that where they're pretty self-sufficient. And I like to wash my face and brush my teeth when I first wake up, because that invigorates me and wakes me up. So I oil cleanse with my Tallow Balm, brush my teeth with my fluoride-free Droxyapatite, whatever stuff. And then I grab my water bottle and I try to go outside first thing. It gets the kids outside. It gets me outside in morning light, looking at the, morning sun, all of that good stuff. We try to spend a little bit of time out there before like breakfast is happening, before I grab coffee, all of that, like 10 minutes or so. And then, or longer, right? And can kind of go in and out from there. But then I'm, usually making somebody breakfast, eating that myself. And at some point before, depending on, obviously days are different and needing to get out of the house or not more quickly, but we're usually all reading something together. Maybe not me like reading out loud, but like the older kids are reading their Bibles, they're listening to like a Bible app. I'm doing the same. My youngest is like flipping through her own story, book kind of thing. And, those are sometimes that's like relatively short time, but it's something that feels important to me to like establish as both for myself, but also establish for my kids too, as they're growing up, is like creating their own rhythms as well that are healthy and good and not, which was my own problem, screen related. So I took a long time to peel that away because, apparently it was an addiction or something very similar to me. It was a hard one to get out of the first beginning part of the day. So that's generally speaking what the morning looks like. It doesn't always exactly follow that, but that's the general gist of what it looks like the first little bit of time waking up over here.
Oh man, I want to come wake up at your house. That sounds lovely.
It's been a thing where it's had to be established, and it's my own thing where I'm like, oh, actually I kind of have to work hard at this. I know these things are good for me. I don't want to necessarily always do it, right? I'm like, I want to lay in bed and scroll on my phone for an hour. Do I really want that? I know, but it feels tempting, right? And so the consistency has been the thing that I've had to work on for that, for sure.
That's sweet. I hope listeners are encouraged by doing just one small thing, just picking one little small thing like drinking water first thing in the morning or getting natural sunlight first thing in the morning or creating a quiet time routine first thing in the morning. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, it didn't start out me doing all of those things. Like me opening up my blinds to let natural light in was a step. So it didn't all happen at once, for sure. It was, I know this is good for me. I'm going to try this out. And that's what we tell our members, our clients, the people who consult with us. It's like, here's all of this information, but just do one thing, right? And then you'll feel like, okay, yes, I got this. This is a part of my routine. Okay, cool. What else can we add in small steps rather than overhauling everything? Because you'll probably burn out at that point. And now here we are talking about adrenal fatigue. So, we try.
Yeah, so let's get around to that. There's a little bit that we can share about adrenal fatigue in general, giving people a background, but also, ladies, there are a couple of episodes that we have gone into more detail around some of these pieces. You can find that in the show notes. But Kelly, give people like a brief introduction to what the adrenal glands are.
Yeah, so they're actually small organs. So they're these little guys who live on top of both of the kidneys. And even though they're little, they actually play a huge part. Of course, right? Like nothing happens in our bodies in a vacuum. Everything is interrelated. But they're responsible for both producing and converting hormones. So much of the communication that happens in our bodies is through hormones. The adrenal glands are really they're like the experts in catecholamines, like the stress hormones. So we love them because we actually do need those. They're not the enemy, but they can kind of get taxed, right? So when they're functioning normally, they're on top of all kinds of regulatory things, right? The metabolism, our immune system, our blood pressure, mental health stuff, response to stress, all of that. And so when it's functioning well, we are like, oh yeah, we're living our kind of best lives, right? But when they are not and when they're stressed, we can absolutely feel that on like all of those different levels. And all of a sudden you're like, well, clearly something is wrong. And even though, again, they're tiny little organs there, they absolutely do need our nourishment and support and all of that because they can get stressed out just like we can.
Yeah, and the concept of adrenal fatigue is a little bit controversial in the holistic health space because the medical model of care does not recognize adrenal fatigue as an actual diagnosis. And so it's really difficult sometimes for women to identify information and education and resources and help when there's like that information or that knowledge controversy. However, no matter where we land in what we're calling it, there is a cluster of symptoms that are very real, especially for women under chronic stress. And they're often associated with HPA axis dysregulation. So that could be a helpful term versus adrenal fatigue for women to gather more information or understand a particular set of symptoms. HPA axis dysregulation. HPA just stands for hypothalamic pituitary adrenal. It is kind of like giving this systemic feedback loop of hormone stress that happens between your brain and your adrenal glands. And so sometimes a more accurate way to describe what is happening in that HPA axis is that it's just dysregulated. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal system is dysregulated from prolonged or chronic stress. So your body is trying to conserve energy to protect you. It's trying to keep things as regulated as possible, but it ends up feeling like burnout. And a lot of that set of symptoms that is absolutely valid, completely real, worth paying attention to, things that women would, kind of start to feel in their own bodies if they had this type of dysregulation would be persistent fatigue, even after recognizing that they're sleeping quite well, difficulty waking in the morning, like always having a really difficult time getting up and getting going in the morning, sugar or salt cravings, really persistent, really strong cravings for certain types of food, brain fog, low motivation, poor concentration, mood swings, irritability, anxiety, low sex drive. These are all a part of, and having symptoms like this periodically or transiently, they come and go. Sometimes you have low sex drive because it's a certain time of month for you. Sometimes you have brain fog because your diet's not on point, right? But we're talking about this set of symptoms where the majority of these symptoms are present and consistent is something to pay attention to, depending on caffeine or stimulants every single day just to feel like you can function. That has absolutely been a part of my symptom picture before. Feeling dizzy or lightheadedness, weight gain that's unexplained, poor sleep quality. These are all symptoms of this potential dysregulation. But I think the important part is, if you're going to dive into this, understanding that there could be other root causes at play, and that sometimes this idea of adrenal fatigue is actually a symptom for something else.
Yeah, so it can like there's can be something else going on and your adrenals can be responding to that, right? And so trying to say, yes, we can support the adrenals, but then also if we're not supporting what's going on underneath that, if there is something else going on really truly underneath that, then we are, even though yes, it's good to support, we always want to just keep digging deeper just to make sure, right? We're getting that foundational piece to make sure that everything else that is interacting with your system is functioning as like well as it can, right? And so some things to consider, to look into, if you know that this is part of your history or even your current situation and you're also experiencing these other symptoms, it can be really helpful to see, oh, actually this piece of my health is actually really impacting this other piece also. We see a lot of thyroid imbalance. Those often go hand in hand. And so something to consider. Anemia or other kind of nutritional deficiencies. We see a lot of depletion involved in HPA or in adrenal fatigue, right? And so nutritional deficiency is incredibly important. Sleep disorders like apnea can absolutely impact that as well, right? That the fact of the matter is, like, sleep is so important. And when it is disturbed in any way, it can definitely impact a lot of things going on. And apnea is actually very, much more common probably now than it ever. I don't know if it's we're more aware of it or the things that we're doing lifestyle wise and health wise and metabolically speaking wise, all of those things can impact that. Mental health concerns can absolutely play an impact, like depression, anxiety, that can impact this. And then chronic conditions too, right? If you're dealing with autoimmune stuff or ongoing infections or gut imbalances, the gut, obviously, we keep kind of coming back to that in so many different spaces, but how important gut health is to the functioning of pretty much every single system in your body and how you feel and how even how the supplements that you're taking, how those are actually being absorbed and used by your body kind of comes back to that too. So those are all important pieces to consider depending on your other symptom pictures or your history or other things that you've been looking into for yourself. It's a worthy thing to keep kind of diving a little bit deeper. And so as you're considering that, you can also consider there is technically some testing that you can be doing, but I think I mean, I'll let you kind of chat about that, but I always think it's really interesting because this is such a huge issue, but the testing piece is always a little wonky in terms of actually getting answers for people. I think it drives people a little crazy.
Yeah, I mean, because HPA axis dysregulation is so complex, it involves so many other systems. It involves your endocrine system, it involves, your nervous system, it involves other organ structures, and it's dependent on your own objective perception, right, of what's happening in your life. So it's not always black and white, although there is validity in cortisol testing and hormone testing and some of those things. But when women, and we've discussed this on the podcast several times, when women want to jump straight to testing and getting that information and trying to use that information in order to go in a certain direction, oftentimes they're missing this really important stabilization piece, which is going to be applicable to everybody, no matter what type of symptoms you're trying to manage holistically, just in women's health in general. And so inside of our membership, we're really, really emphasizing those foundational pieces. Like, how do you optimize the things that are going to make everything stabilize, everything feel better, everything come together? How can we support the body so that it can heal itself? And then when you have all of those pieces in place, you're sleeping well, your hormones are being supported, you have a grip on stress response in your body, your nutrition is dialed in, you're supplementing appropriately, you're honoring your own menstrual cycle and different adjustments that need to be made at certain times in your own, cycle every month. Then when you have those pieces, probably some of your symptoms are going to be just automatically repaired and stabilized. Then you can look a little bit more objectively of what else needs to be sorted out. Maybe then we can bring some testing in to get some more information. But if we pass up those foundational pieces and then we just go straight to treating something specific that is difficult to diagnose in the first place, then I think women are really missing an opportunity to is something that is going to actually help the more root cause issues and help more with long-term health. So I understand the medical model, Western medicine has taught us to go straight to testing, gather data, and then treat symptoms. And sometimes it can be that straightforward, but oftentimes with HPA axis dysregulation, it's not. So sometimes, and for most women, it just makes more sense to make lifestyle and nutritional changes that support their entire system versus chasing down a diagnosis right away. And we're going to share an entire supplement protocol that nourishes the adrenal glands and this HPA axis piece for women, but something else, some other pieces to keep in mind specifically for women who are having this cluster of symptoms would be getting consistent with circadian habits, morning sunlight. Kelly, you mentioned that in your own morning routine. Stable sleep and meal time. So going to bed at the same time every night, waking up at the same time every morning, having meals relatively at predictable intervals for your body throughout the day. Blood sugar balance and mineral-rich meals is really important. Nervous system regulation, like breath work, walking, somatics, paying attention to getting your nervous system dialed in, and then reducing your reliance on stimulants like caffeine or whatever else might be a part of your arsenal for producing energy is actually taxing your body even more. And yes, there's a withdrawal period where you're asking your body to actually suffer quite a bit when you're pulling back those stimulants, but you have to in order to give your body time and space to heal and regulate. So those are some really foundational pieces that women who even are not having this cluster of symptoms absolutely can benefit from bringing in some more of this support. However, it's it's vital. It's for all of us, right? And I think that's the cool thing about holistic health is that we can look at some of these recommendations and ideas. And even if you're like, I'm not even sure if I'm having adrenal fatigue or chronic stress issues, you could still follow all of the recommendations and resources that we're providing in this episode and benefit from it. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think we kind of we're very into making things like simple, right? Going kind of let's kind of slow down. Let's see some of these foundational pieces. And I think a lot of what is said in the health space is like, go get this visit, go spend all this money, go do this involved testing, go through like all of these crazy rigorous protocols, which can be helpful at times, right? There's a space for that. But I think we kind of forget, oh yeah, there are these very simple things that if I jump over them, they absolutely will impact my body. So if I just go back to some of those very simple pieces, then I can start to see how is my body actually, how does it actually want to function? What am I actually feeling at this point when I am sleeping well and, nourishing my body with the foods that it wants, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, we do always want to just kind of slow down. And what's great about this protocol that we'll share for supplement wise is that, again, even if you are like, oh, I'm not quite sure if this is like me to a T, all of these symptoms and all of that, this is a great lineup to have in your arsenal no matter what. And so these are great pieces to have. You absolutely can just start on some of these basic things, both the lifestyle stuff that Tiff talked about and then this protocol that we'll chat about. And then just kind of see, hey, in a couple months, how am I actually feeling, right? So you can even write down now your symptoms, scale them 1 to 10, all of that good stuff, and then start doing some of these things, even if it is, quote, just the supplement protocol, right? And then see how you are feeling and start, just like I was saying with the morning routine, start one thing at a time, right? That you can start to weave in and see how much of an impact you make. So I've mentioned the supplement protocol. It is on Fullscript, which it is always on our account. It's always 25% off MSRP. So you will always be getting a fantastic deal. And there's also recommendations in terms of dosage and all of that within the protocol. And so you can hop in there and be like, you can take it all, you can take some and kind of follow along with some of that, depending on what you're already taking and all that good stuff. The first one, and this is one that we recommend across the board in this situation, would be trace minerals. So trace minerals are incredibly important. We're like mineral depleted in so many ways, in so many seasons for a million different reasons, including our soil even is so depleted in and of itself. So even foods that are normally bringing us lots of minerals are weaker basically at this point. And so these kind of minerals can really fuel those adrenal enzymes and really can kind of come in that stress-related oxidative damage that happens to our cells, to our systems, and help reduce that, help kind of bring some stability to that piece on top of a million other things that it can provide. But we see, even with just that, we see a lot of women who are like, oh, I'm starting to come back to myself because, like we mentioned, so many nutritional deficiencies can impact, what's going on.
Yeah, and then next on the list is B vitamins, and there's a lot of ways to approach B vitamins. I mean, you especially want to make sure that you have B5, B6, B12, but taking a comprehensive broad spectrum B complex might be like the best way to go about that for women who just want to make sure that they're getting enough Bs. And what B vitamins do is they aid in energy production, they help with hormone synthesis, and that subsequently helps with mood balance too. So most of us could benefit from being on a B complex.
Yeah, for sure. The next one in there are omega-3s. You'll see this whenever we recommend, supplements for women, we often come back to omegas because it's so important to many different functions and how our systems just keep rolling forward. So it's really great for reducing inflammation, which then allows like the gates to kind of open for your body to communicate well. It's going to support that brain adrenal communication. Omegas, that fat that's in them, hormones love to, kind of soak up some of that fat to help communicate with, different parts of our bodies. And so when we're providing it really something solid like this, it's really, we actually do see an impact on how some of these communication lines can open up and become more smooth, which is a great thing. And then it's great at stabilizing cortisol as well. which is an incredibly important stress hormone, which I think we're in the social media space and all of that, people are saying like cortisol is like the enemy, right? Totally not. It's actually really, really helpful for us. It has a purpose, right? But the problem becomes when it just is built up, built up, built up, and constantly kind of bathing our bodies, then we're having a problem. And so omegas are really great in helping to kind of stabilize some of that cortisol for us.
Next up is magnesium. And I know for sure that we have talked about magnesium because we're always talking about magnesium. Every single place, all day long, we're talking about magnesium. We want women to be taking magnesium orally every single day. Even if you think that you're getting enough from your diet, you probably need so much more on a regular basis to be absolutely certain you're getting enough oral magnesium. And then we want women to have topical magnesium as a part of their routine too. So utilizing a lotion or a spray or, regular bath soaks, that kind of thing. Your skin can actually absorb and bypass the digestive system and get magnesium into your system a whole lot faster when we use it topically. But magnesium and our body actually get depleted really quickly, especially with stress. And so when you have a poor night of sleep, when you have a stressful event, if you're experiencing chronic stress, one of the ways that your body actually nourishes those adrenal glands and helps you cope and adapt with stress is utilizing magnesium to do that. So when we're stressed, we burn through it. We probably need even more magnesium. Magnesium helps to calm the nervous system. It helps to improve sleep. It helps regulate our cortisol and so many other things. It's a nerve tonic for our bodies too. And so magnesium, magnesium, magnesium.
Yeah, we mentioned gut health. Of course, we're going to put probiotics on here. If you're eating fermented foods, wonderful. Probiotics are a really quick, easy way to just help proliferate happy bacteria within your gut. And it's going to just in and of itself support some of that gut brain axis, that is that communication that's happening, right? And when we are taking that and supporting our gut system like that, it's going just naturally to reduce the inflammation. And like I was saying, that inflammation can just worsen that stress response. And so probiotics, again, is one of those everybody can benefit from and a really quick and easy way just to do something, again, foundational that helps support that gut system, which again can impact so much.
Next up is adaptogens. And adaptogens are basically like specific herbal that help your body adapt to stress. So it's not necessarily that it produces a specific mechanism immediately. It's something that actually works better in your body if taken over a long period of time. So that's why we have women just start immediately, get on some kind of adaptogenic blend. And being able to experience the long-term benefits of nourishing your stress response inside of your body, balancing cortisol, improving energy. We love some of the herbs out there like ashwagandha, rhodiola, holy basil. Those are all great places to start for women. We have a couple of blends to recommend on Full Script. We have a really comprehensive, like full spectrum blend for women to enjoy, just boosting that stress resilience, and usually expecting about 1 or 2 months for that to kind of take hold before you start to notice, yes, actually, I am experiencing less stress. I feel like I'm a little bit more resilient in my stress experience. And probably all women all women who are out in the modern world dealing with time schedules and pressure to perform and, various stressors, just even in their own home and household and motherhood. If you're in the workplace, especially if you have digital devices, all of those are indicators that you're probably dealing with stress on a regular basis. Having adaptogens on board is so very helpful.
I think you brought up a great point too about that consistency. Like sometimes we want to take something and be like overnight we're noticing something, or by the end of the week, then I'll keep going with it. A lot of this is consistency. What is going on in your body didn't happen that quickly, right? And so we do have to be consistent in bringing our bodies out of that space. So that was like a helpful reminder. Even on some of the stuff that I'm working on, I'm like, oh, yes, yes, yes. It's always a good reminder. Sometimes these things take consistency and time and a willingness to, just continue foregoing the path that you, or continue going on the path that you kind of have set before you. The next one up are homeopathics. So we have in there sepia and ignatia. So homeopathics can feel a little intimidating if you haven't tried them before. The dosage is in there. It is not hard to actually take them. And what's great about homeopathics is that they are actually, a lot of women are very responsive to them and they are very affordable. So it's a great combo of like, hey, let's try this out. I was speaking with a homeopath also recently because a lot of women were like, well, I read online, like I shouldn't drink water or I shouldn't have food around this time. Like, I just can't remember all of these rules around it. And she was like, similar to what I would have said, but it was helpful to get somebody who had like, gone to school, got a degree in this, was like, oh, it's much better. Like, forego the rules if you need to, just get it in your body. And so the more that you can do that, the better. And so that was an encouragement. And hopefully you take that as an encouragement if you're kind of considering kind of messing around with this. Homeopathics can be incredibly supportive for many different systems. The ones that we have in there are really great for emotional balance in particular. If you just are feeling moody in general, even if you're like, oh, yeah, I'm not, none of the symptom picture, but you're still listening applies to me. Sepia as a woman, you should have in your back pocket pretty consistently. It is wonderful, especially around period kind of emotional issues. And they're also really helpful for chronic stress recovery. So those two together are, big signs in this adrenal fatigue situation. And very simple, again, affordable things that you can start to weave into your day to help support that.
Yeah, and last are calming herbs. So we talked about adaptogen specific herbs, and then these are going to be like more nervines, more nervous system supporting, more regulate, like immediate regulation. And we usually recommend tinctures. That's how you'll see it in the full script protocol because they are fast acting, they're easy to take, they're usually very potent in the brands that we recommend them for. And so we have lemon balm, which is just generally a really good calming aid. We have passion flower, which is great for more heightened senses of like anxiety or panic or, just riding that cusp of feeling like you could explode at any moment. And then we have valerian, which is really good for sleep and specifically like muscle related tension can be really helpful. So these herbs, they soothe anxiety, they promote restful sleep, they help reset the nervous system. This is something that can be taken because you just feel a little bit stressed or anxious in that particular moment, or you can work them into a natural rhythm, especially lemon balm and valerian you could take every single day as just a part of supporting your nervous system.
Yeah. And so if any of these or all of these, if you're like, this is me, I would love to get on any or all of these. The entire protocol is linked in our show notes for you. Again, that's through Fullscript, which is an online dispensary, super trustworthy. I was just actually talking on Instagram recently about buying supplements on Amazon and how it can feel very convenient, but the stories that come out of, even if you're buying direct from like the supplier, because they're, from an Amazon warehouse is wild. And so there's like lawsuits and all kinds of, like it's just not trustworthy. And so that kind of blew my mind a little bit. So Fullscript is wonderful because you do not have to deal with that. Always very trustworthy, third-party tested, all that good stuff. And always on sale in terms of what it would be if you were to find it at a regular old store. So a great option for these and for any other supplement that you can even think about. You'll find that there. But then we also mentioned our membership a few times. It is worth re-mentioning because like I mentioned, we both have kind of walked through this. And so a lot of the things that we have shared have been what has been truly helpful for us individually, but also the ways that we have treated women for this, over the many years that we have been in practice. And we have dived really, really deep on a lot of both adrenal fatigue, but also some of those root cause issues. So we're talking about adrenal health and there are a ton of resources, but also metabolic health and thyroid health, sleep, stress management in general, hormone balancing. But you'll find things in there like adrenal health, right? Metabolic health, thyroid health, good quality sleep support, stress management, hormone balancing. So you're going to find the things that both support this issue, but also, again, root cause, foundational pieces that will support your body holistically and completely. And for $34 a month to jump in to get access to all of that. And then even if you were like, okay, well, I got what I needed and now I'm going to jump out, perfectly acceptable. That is what it is there for. But you also get access to consultations as well if you are interested in kind of really getting some really personalized feedback and handholding. We are here for that also. So all of that information you will find in our show notes below, and we will catch you next week. Hey ladies, if you're loving the show and want to help us keep it ad-free so we can keep talking about all things birth and women's health without cutting to an ad about electrolytes or grass-fed beef sticks, here is how you can support us. First, leave us a quick review or a rating. It helps more women, new moms, and birth enthusiasts find our show, and it honestly means so much to us to be reminded that you love what we are doing here. Second, share this episode with a friend, with a doula buddy, or anyone who is on their own holistic health or natural birth journey. And third, hop on our newsletter list. This is where we share bonus goodies, behind-the-scenes stuff, fun little extras you just won't hear on the show. You can find that link to join in our show notes below. Thanks so much for being a part of this growing, empowered community. We could not do it without you.